very exciting day.
U.S. President Donald Trump launched his Board of Peace from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The organization was initially designed to cement Gaza's rocky ceasefire and was endorsed by a United Nations Security Council resolution as part of Trump's Gaza peace plan. Trump, who will chair the board, says he thinks it will eventually tackle conflicts worldwide. Board members also include U.S. Gaza negotiators Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Leaders from around the world have signed up to participate. Those joining include Turkey and Saudi Arabia, while traditional Western U.S. allies have been more cautious. Trump said permanent members must help fund the board with a $1 billion payment.
It's official. They have now signed the Board of Peace. A bunch of people, a bunch of powerful men and women and presidents, and anyone who donates 30 million or 1 billion, sorry, anyone who donates up to 1 billion is now in charge of Palestine. Board of Peace is official.
Congratulations, President Trump. The charter is now in full force, and the Board of Peace is now an official international organization.
So these are the people who now rule Palestine, who will decide its fate. Everyone you see here
we
is
will
now
now
in charge
continue
of
the signing ceremonies, beginning with the President of Argentina and the Prime Minister of Armenia.
By the way, Benjamin Netanyahu skipped that sign-in because apparently Switzerland said if he did show up, they will uphold the warrant from the International Criminal Court, and they will arrest him. So he couldn't go to the sign-in for the Board of Peace because Switzerland said they will arrest him. Russia has refused to join. Vladimir Putin said he's not going to join unless Palestinians are given full citizenship and full rights under a UN charter. This is what he had to say.
Поэтому уже сейчас, даже до решения нами вопроса об участии в составе и в самой работе Совета мира, учитывая особые отношения России с палестинским народом, мы могли бы, я думаю, направить в Совет мира $1 миллиард США из замороженных еще при прежней администрации США российских активов. Кстати, оставшиеся средства из наших же замороженных в США активов можно было бы использовать и на восстановление территорий, пострадавших в ходе боевых действий после заключения мирного договора между Россией и Украиной. Такая возможность также обсуждается нами с представителями администрации США. Планирую обсудить все эти вопросы с президентом Палестины Махмудом Аббасом, с которым завтра у нас состоятся переговоры, а также с американскими представителями Стивеном Уиткофом и Джаредом Кушнером, которые тоже завтра приезжают в Москву для продолжения диалога по вопросам украинского урегулирования.
So he's waiting for Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to come so they can talk about Palestine, right? Let's see. Let's take a look at something.
Okay. Now, this is Jared Kushner being interviewed on 60 Minutes alongside Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy and longtime friend of Netanyahu.
Well, part of the plan is the reconstruction, the rebuilding of Gaza. And your builders, tell us more about the plan and how much it's going to cost, where's the money going to come from, and who's going to award the contracts.
And Kushner lets Witkoff answer.
I think it's going to cost a lot of money.
What's a lot of money?
The estimates are in the $50 billion range. It might be a little bit less. It might be a little bit more. Money raising, we think, is the easy part. We think that happens relatively quickly. But it's the master plan, and we're working with a group of people who have been working on master plans for the last 2 years.
So there are plans already.
Witkoff says there's been a plan in place for 2 years.
So the people who are going to go discuss with Putin over the possibility of rebuilding Palestine and whatnot are people who have publicly admitted that that plan has been in place for 2 years. That's longer than October 7th. But anyways, the Board of Peace is now official. Russia has refused to join. They said America should take $1 billion out of the money they've frozen to add to it, and waiting for Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to come have a conversation.
So we did a master plan. We brought in, I think, Yakir Gabay, who's one of the most successful real estate developers and brilliant people I know. He's volunteered to do this, not for profit, really because of his heart. He wants to do this. And we've developed ways to redevelop Gaza. Gaza, as President Trump's been saying, has amazing potential. And this is for the people of Gaza. We've developed it into zones. In the beginning, we were toying with the idea of saying, let's build a free zone, and then we have a Hamas zone. And then we said, you know what, let's just plan for catastrophic success. Hamas signed a deal to demilitarize. That is what we are going to enforce. People ask us what our plan B is. We do not have a plan B. We have a plan. We signed an agreement. We are all committed to making that agreement work. There's a master plan. We'll be doing it in phasing. In the Middle East, they build cities like this in 2-3 million people. They build this in 3 years. And so stuff like this is very doable if we make it happen. Rafah will start with. This will show a lot of workforce housing. We think this could be done in 2-3 years. We've already started removing the rubble and doing some of the demolition. And then New Gaza. It could be a hope. It could be a destination, have a lot of industry, and really be a place that the people there can thrive, have great employment. Once this starts going, we think there should be 100% full employment and opportunity for everybody there. And we have a lot of data on what can be, but we think that this really gives the Gazan people an opportunity to live their aspirations. But it all starts with security, and it all starts with governance. Final note I'll just say on the Board of Peace, which is that all the lessons we're doing is we're basically studying the best practices from all over the world, and we're watching who does education the best, who does healthcare delivery the best. All of these things it's not secret IP. All this is IP that the Board of Peace is going to make public, and we want to encourage all the countries to be able to follow these best practices. A lot of the things that President Trump is doing in America, if they're working, we should all be copying them. If we find what's working in other countries, we should be copying them too. And so what the Board of Peace will have the ability to do if we're successful with Gaza is really show how do you do peace implementation, which is something that when we got this deal done, we didn't really find too much expertise or know-how on how to do it. So as we're creating this system, hopefully it's something that we can just document these learnings and make them available to all else who want to use them in the future. So demilitarization, this is something we're starting now that we have a new government in Gaza. This government will be working with Hamas on the demilitarization to really take the principles that were agreed to in the document to the next phase, and hopefully that will be successful. Without that, we can't rebuild. So if Hamas does not demilitarize, that will be what holds back Gaza and the people of Gaza from achieving their aspiration, and that's very important. So the next 100 days, we're going to continue to just be heads down and focused on making sure this is implemented. We continue to be focused on humanitarian aid, humanitarian shelter, but then creating the conditions to move forward.
This is Micah 2:2. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Kahala Yahweh Bashim Yashai Bashim Rakokwadash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Israel. Peace and mercy to the elect who are the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as and still are the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about Trump's Board of Peace and how basically it's the signification that Edom has now taken over more of the Holy Land. Now, when I say Edom, I'm referring to the true biblical identity or the true ethnicity of the so-called white man and the so-called Israeli. Because in fact, even though they like to pretend and argue that they are not the same people, they are. They come from the same descendant. They descend from Esau. Okay, you can read about him in Genesis 25 and 25, making these people the biblical Edomites. Okay, and what I just read to you in Micah is a description of the wicked of the Bible, basically the coming wicked nation, or what people refer to as the Antichrist. Characteristics of this wickedness, right? That they covet fields, okay? And what do? They take them by peace? No, by violence. And what they did over in Gaza, that was the most violent, okay? There's pictures of, tanks running over dead corpses. It's crazy, right? That everybody had to watch that. But again, this is so that way everybody can understand who these people are. Remember, right now the Lord is making these Edom. He says He's going to make Esau bare. and he's going to show the nations his shame. And not only that, but check this out. He fulfills this prophecy. And this is what's going on right now. It says, this is Ezekiel 36:5, the NIV version. It says, This is what the sovereign Lord says. In my burning zeal, I have spoken against the rest of the nations and against all Edom. With glee and with malice in their hearts, they made my land their own possession, so that they might plunder its pasture lands. Right? And he's talking about these people. Okay? These are the people who have conquered the land of Israel by deceit and malice. Remember, they went in to that land. They got appointed to that land. And I'm not just talking about the Israelis. I'm talking about the entire nation of Edom. Because remember, Edom acquired the land of Israel, which is why they were able to dictate that Amalek was allowed to go in and, have a homeland. But it was when Esau beat Ishmael, right? The Ottoman Empire. And that happened after World War I, when Britain held on to the land of Israel. Well, that's how Esau started to appoint the Holy Land into their own possession, right? And what they're doing here is they're taking even more of the land, right? And they've done it in a in a malice, evil, wicked way. Even though they're trying to make it seem above board, right? Like they've established this board so that way it makes it look like there's a democratic type of organization. But look, check this out. Israel's Netanyahu accepts invitation to join Trump's Board of Peace. What does that mean? That means this guy's going to fucking run the show. Okay? Amalek has controlled that land, and they're simply just giving the illusion of a democracy there. Okay? And the thing is that's not even supposed to, they're obviously not supposed to be in that land. Right? But what does it say? It says, they've made my land their own possession. So see, right now, they're going to set it up, and they're going to try to make it, Edom heaven. They're going to basically make it Basra 2.0, or what we've all seen, the Greater Israel Project, right? And that includes like the land of Ukraine that they've since taken over, that they've basically, nation side or something. It's like, means they killed off all the males of that nation. So now that's why there's been mass influx of Amalekites going into the land. But see, all this has to happen because this. Let's read this. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. You see, so this period has to come first, okay? And that's what we're in right now. Right now, they're referring to a time of peace. And pretty soon, I'm sure we're going to see other spiritual signs of them declaring safety and all this stuff. But the thing is understand that for end time prophecies to fulfill, the Antichrist have to be in the land, okay? It tells you that this Antichrist, they're known as the Edomites, right? The nation of Edom. They have to be in possession of the Holy Land, and then they're eventually going to start a world war, a large war. Okay, and that's what we understand as World War III. The Bible refers to it as Armageddon. So what we're seeing now is the progression of these prophecies play out right in front of us, right? But again, just as soon as they declare peace and safety, watch. We're going to see a lot of destruction start to come, because remember, as you just heard, Russia doesn't want to have anything to do with it, right? Even though they're offering up their money for the benefit of the Palestinians, and but the thing is that this is only going to escalate the tensions in that area, and that's going to cause that great war between between Ishmael, right, the Arabs, and the Carmenians, the Persians, right, Elam. They're going to come out and they're going to ultimately attack Edom, okay? And that right there is one of the next couple of prophecies that's going to come to pass. So either way, so let's read this. This is Job 14:5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds, that he cannot pass. So you see, so all these things going on right now, like I said, it's prophecy, right? It has to come before the next part of the prophecy, which is the destruction. And the thing is all these things that these devils appear to be winning right now, and they appear to be, gaining control of the whole world. All that has to go down, so that way ultimately the Lord can bring him down, right? What did he do to Pharaoh, right? He built him up, so that way he could destroy him and bring him down and show the world what a might that the Lord is in the world. And that's the same thing he's doing to these Edomites. So again, all these getting them more of the land, basically, attacking other, trying to annex other parts of the world like Greenland and stuff. All this is because these Edomites, they believe that they're close to finishing their agenda, right? To basically conquer the world. But the thing is that, remember, like the Bible says, right? When he is about to fill his belly, then that's when the Lord's going to strike him through. Because why? Well, because again, the Lord put bounds on these Edomites. They're not going to get a world government, or should I say a sustained world government, because it's going to, get announced. It's going to, in fact, we're actually already living through the very beginning announcement of the New World Order, right? You had the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, come out and says that, that he's ready for the New World Order with the connection between him and China. He also came out and said that the old system, the old world order is done away with. It's not coming back, right, over at the World Economic Forum. So these devils, like, they're already announcing the New World Order, okay? But it's, short of them putting on a celebration, a la the Olympics. But who knows? But maybe the Olympics was the official announcement of the fucking New World Order and stuff, right? Because these devils love to do things in signs, right? To tell, because they got to tell us what they're doing. But the point being is that these devils, it seems like they're winning right now, but ultimately all this is to build these devils up so that way the Lord can bring them down. Okay, but I wanted to cover this so that way we know, who, what's going on in prophecy. Because again, remember, prophecy tells us that before, the end comes, that the Antichrist have to be revealed. Now, the thing is these Edomites, in working their great deception, they've tricked the masses, the world, through their churches and their religion, that there's only going to be one individual, and he's going to be the Antichrist, right? He's going to have 666 etched in the back of his head, and his eyes are going to glow red and all this stuff, and he's going to, blood's going to come out his nose and all that shit, right? But that's all Hollywood. It's a big fat lie. The truth is that the Antichrist the Bible speaks of, it's not a single person, but it's a nation. It's a group of people, right? And this group of people, they have an ethnicity, and that ethnicity is that they are Hebrew Edomites, okay? Or Edom, the descendants of Esau, okay? We call these people today the Israeli and the Caucasian race. And again, remember, not every Israeli and not every Caucasian are Edomites. There's going to be, remember, within every one of the 18 nations, every one of those nations are going to have a split of Israelites and Edomites and just themselves amongst their nation, okay? So that's where you got to understand that this isn't a color thing, but it's a bloodline thing, okay? So this is why we got to use prophecy to explain who's who in the end days. And again, as prophecy says, the Lord returns with Esau, with the Edomites in rulership and in possession of the Holy Land, and having the Israelites, the holy people, under captivity, okay? And that he's going to be the one that frees us. Hence, that's what the term being saved is, right? Because we're being saved from our captivity, even though it's generational and it's hidden unless you actually know what you're looking for, right? You think you're free in the systems of lies, but either way, that's a whole other lesson. But let's read this. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, right? And we already went through the falling away, okay? Now we're starting to come out of the falling away, meaning that we've lost our heritage, as it tells us in Jeremiah 17:4, but we're regaining that heritage as told in Baruch 2:30, okay, or Hosea 1:10. So that's what's happening right now. That's what these lessons are about. That's why you, Akim, are watching these lessons and getting this knowledge, because you are regaining your ancient lost heritage, your true heritage, which was taken from you by our enemy. So either way, hopefully this lesson is being edifying. So until next time, let's go and give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem Ruach HaKodesh. Shalom.